Hi, this is Loop Braider again. Today I'm going to be demoing a rather unusual braid, a little more than a double braid, but not quite a triple braid. It's double braids have 4 loop transfers. This braid I've been making that I came up with, it's very logical though, I mean it's based on a double braid, has 5 loop transfers. So it's like a double braid and a bit. And the reason I wanted to make that type of braid is because you can make some rather fun asymmetrical color patterns. I don't know if this shows very well in this bad light, but there's one. Here's another one. You can make asymmetrical color patterns, this type even with a double braid as well, if you make an odd number of turned loop transfers. Let's put you up here. But if you use an odd number of total transfers, you can turn all of them and get these, and still get these kind of fun asymmetrical patterns, at least with bicolor loops. So the braid is not hard to make. It's not intuitive because you'd normally never think of doing a different. It's unnatural really to do a different number of loop transfers on one hand than on the other. But which is the only reason that this type of braid wasn't done historically. I doubt it was done. It's not impossible. It just is kind of odd to do it this way. It's just much more natural to do the same thing on both hands. The way I've set it up, it's going to be a 2-2 twill braid, like a 10-loop double braid. Each time I transfer a loop, it will go through 2 adjacent loops. Numerically, or whatever that came out to, 12 loops, and I have 7 on the left hand, 5 on the right. I have 3 loops on the left little finger, and 1 loop each on the rest of my fingers. So I will be making 3 loop transfers on the left hand with the left hand loops, and 2 loop transfers like a double braid with the right hand loops. Let's see if there's and the color patterns here. I'll give the color setups on my blog. I'm not going to do that here in the video. Okay, so I will be turning every transfer, turning every loop transfer, and I will also be turning them all inward in relation to the center of the braid. That means clockwise on the left, counterclockwise on the right. Sometimes that requires turning from above, sometimes from below. It's just this makes it fairly even structure when you do it that way. The first loop transfer on both hands actually will be the innermost loop progressing upward, meaning just in the direction towards the thumb, through the two loops next to it. To do that with this loop, when I have 3 on the little finger, I'm going to do the turn manually first. And then I lift the 2 loops next to it over. This is really the transferring loop, but that's just the easiest way to do it. Tighten. I'm leaving these 2 loops temporarily on the operator finger, and I'm using another finger now to do the next loop transfer, which is going to be this loop on the middle finger. We'll get a turn as it goes through the 2 loops next to it. So I take it from above to turn it inward and shift those 2 fingers while temporarily holding. Now I'm holding 3 loops while I tighten. Now I'm going to place all 3 onto the little finger. They're in the correct positions there, and it's a very simple. It looks complicated, but it's not really hard to do. So the first 2 loop transfers have been done, and that's usually all you would do with a double braid. You would do 2 on each hand, but now I'm going to do an extra one. So the loop that is now on the middle finger is going to go through the 2 loops next to it in the opposite direction of the previous transfer with a turn, an inward turn, and the easiest way to access it, it has to go in this manner. The easiest way to access it is to turn your hand and go this way. So you can go through the thumb loop, straight through, then sort of down into the index loop, and down into the loop I'm taking. I don't know if that shows very well, but I'm going straight down into it from behind because I want to grab that near shank, bring it through, temporarily hold it while I shift, and now this loop has to turn inward a little bit more like that, and the easiest way to do that is to back the thumb into it this way. That finishes the turn. On the thumb, this is the upper loop. This is the loop that will be forming the upper surface, the upper layer of the braid, and it is, even though it's sort of level on the thumb, this is the upper loop. It just became the upper loop when it was on this finger. The other loop was upper, so it's gotten its inward turn. I don't tighten now. I already did the there's nothing to tighten. Everything, there's nothing, anyway, I already tightened what I need to do on the left hand. Now I'm going to do the 2 right transfers. The little finger loop is going to go through the 2 loops next to it with an inward turn. The easiest way to do that is to reach from behind into those 2 loops, reach from behind into the loop I'm going to take in order to give it this turn. Sort of grab it kind of sideways and pull it through. There, turned over in an inward direction. I'm going to shift, and place it where it belongs. Now I do the one tightening for this right hand, and I'm going to take these 2 loops off, tighten them against the other right loops, and replace them. That was the first loop transfer. The second loop transfer will be the thumb loop will come down through the neighboring 2 loops with an inward turn. Do that this way, reaching through. The loops are, you don't be shy when you're, you don't have to sneak in there, they move. So I'm going to reach over, grab this one from above, so that will give it its inward turn. Then I shift, opposably onto the thumb, shift, and place it onto the middle finger. So those transfers are done, and now it's time to do the loop exchange. These 2 loops must go one around the other onto the opposite hand. I find the easiest way to do it is to put I know this looks too busy because now there's 4 on here, and lift this over, but I tried it the other way and this seems easier. And tighten. You can do it the other way if you prefer, though. Okay, so 1 cycle has been done. I hope, in talking and everything, I hope I remember to turn all the loops. If I didn't, the pattern will change. So I will keep going now. The first move is to turn that loop before it affects its transfer. So I turned it, and now lifting that over, tighten, take that with a turn, place them on, angle a hand to get the middle finger loop through these 2 loops, finish the turn by putting the thumb through, other hand, let's see, does that show, reaching behind these 2 loops from behind into the little finger loop and removing it with a turn, shift and place. Now tighten, replace, second transfer, reaching above, shift and place. Ooh, that was a bad move there. I just moved them all together. The loops, the 3 loops on the little finger, if they do get mushed together like that, it's very easy to see up here what order they need to be in. So you don't need to freak out, they're not in order anymore. You can reach up here and you can see which one. It's very clear up at the fell which one should be in front, which one should be next. They're all in order up there, and which is the bottom one. it's usually actually pretty easy to keep them separated on the finger. I just did a little move that I shouldn't have. But it's very easy to fix that. So the loop exchange, put that one on, lift this one over, tighten. This tightening is actually not as important as the other ones. It doesn't do very much. I don't pull much on that one. The other ones are more effective. Like right here, tighten. You can just see it kind of snug up when you do that. Oh, second transfer, reaching above. I'm a little nervous that I might have forgotten to turn the first one, though. Let's see. I'm going to undo this. So to undo, you reverse what you just did, and I know I did the first two transfers. So I'm going to back out of the first two transfers and last one first, right? Because I did the one I did most recently. This loop, the third one, I actually pulled it with that finger. It needs to go back through those two onto the middle finger. So I'm going to shift these ones down, and I could try force it through. I can also reach through and just get it. Came with a turn. I'm going to fetch it with a turn. There. Came undone. Now these two, I'm slightly wondering if when I was talking, if I forgot to turn that one. This is the one that came through these other ones. I can actually see that I turned it. I'm not going to undo it because I can see up at the fell that as it came from the other side, it had the white shank up, and now it's been turned so the blue one is up. So I really was okay. Okay, so that was okay. And now I'm going to redo the second transfer that I undid. So I'm going to reach through. It's all undone. I can see there's no twist in it. So I'm going to take it with a turn. It's good to be ready to undo. It's just nice to be able to do that, because then if you're worried you made a mistake, you can just go back before getting too deeply embroiled in the braid and just check. Okay, so third transfer through those two, keep the turn going. Other hand, reaching back, shift, place. Tighten. Next transfer, turn. Loop exchange, little tightening. Oops, went too far. I usually, I talk to myself to keep myself on track with the cycles, because this braid, for example, has 12 full cycles before you finish a repeat, before the loops are back where they started. And I find it very helpful to check my loops at that point to make sure they're all in the correct order. So I usually count to myself, and in doing this on the camera, I sort of lost count. I think I'm probably on about the fourth cycle. I'm going to pretend I'm on the fourth cycle and just count as if, because I want to have some idea of when I'm getting up to the 12th cycle, so I can check my loops. So let's see, if I had done 4 cycles, I would now be on the 5th. I'm going to pretend I am. I might get to 12 too soon, but I'll know. So I'm going to start counting the way I normally count when I am braiding. So I say to myself at each transfer, I say the number of the cycle, so I don't forget. So this would be 5, maybe. 5. Good to say whatever you need to remember. Like if you need to remember to turn each one, to just say that, turn. I need to remember this cycle, so I'm just saying that. 5 and 5. And I usually do it as I'm making the loop transfer, so I also have a little sense of that I'm doing 3 transfers here, 2 and an exchange here. It sort of adds up to 3. So 6, 6, and 6, and 6, 6. I was just guessing, and it did 9. Yeah, I'm not in starting setup position. Okay, so assuming this might be 10. 10. This actually is looking... No, that's not starting. Sorry, the interruption. I wish I knew what cycle I was at. Just checking to see if I had turned that one. Here now. Okay, this looks like my starting setup position. So that was 12 cycles. And this is where I check to make sure my loops are in the right position when they come back to where I started. So I had all these blues, and they're all blue up. The navy up. Turquoise, navy, turquoise. Yeah. So I can kind of tell here that I haven't made any mistakes. That I might have made some other kind of mistake, but the more common kind of mistake I haven't made, because they're all in the right color position and they're in the right up-down. The bicolor loops are in the right up-down positions. So that's how the braid is done. It's actually pretty fun to do because the moves are different on the two hands. I find that there's something kind of beguiling and the opposite of boring about doing it, because you do different things on both hands, and yet they're not too hard to memorize. Okay, thank you for watching. Oh, and maybe I'll demo how I put this down. You could count, but just make sure there's enough to put all 7 loops down. And whenever I put down loops on a comb, I always make sure that they're in they go down onto the comb in the same orientation that they were on the fingers. And I always transfer the thumb onto a finger so it will be in the correct up-down position. The 2 shanks of the loop. The thumb holds it kind of differently than the fingers. So here, shift, 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 and now they're, I don't know, I just find that a lot easier to keep track of the loops that way. Okay, thanks again for watching, and to get more information about this braid and how to set up for different color patterns, I will have probably come up with some more by then too. Right now these are the only samples I've made. And I've made all of these are just the solid rectangle version, which is every one of the 5 transfers is turned. You can also, with this braid, do, make flat or hollow side slit versions too. Yeah, the fun thing about this color pattern, I love it because each of these little blotches of blue, they all look slightly different. They aren't. They repeat finally, but it's like it's a long repeat before they exactly repeat again, the shapes. So it's just sort of fun, because usually patterns in a loop braid are so regular. I mean, they're beautifully regular usually, but this, I'm so used to that to me it's really fun to see a beautifully irregular pattern like that. Okay, thanks again for watching.